Welcome back, everyone. So this video is going to pertain towards the Art 101 classes session 7. This is an introduction to linear perspective, and in this course we'll only focus on 1 and 2 point perspective. I will show what 3 point looks like, but we won't actually be in situations where we'll be drawing from that necessarily. There might be an opportunity next week in sessions maybe like 10 that you might encounter it, and so when we get to that point I'll point that out and then you can see it. Alright, so in this introduction we're going to be only dealing with right now in session 7 1 point perspective, but some of the things I want to point out in linear perspective, it's a situation where kind of bringing up or reminding you again that line is a construct, it's not real. And so if you notice, if you look at my hand, you see the edge of my finger, but what denotes the transition of, like, I know this is my finger, but when this edge meets the background, that's what actually denotes in real life time that transition. But when we draw, we have to use a line to indicate that, to describe that. So again, line isn't really, it's not real. In linear perspective, we have 3 distortions that most of you may take for granted, and by bringing them up, you'll be like, oh, right. So the first distortion is this idea of diminishing sizes. Things get smaller as they get farther away from us. Okay. Other things that will happen is the details drop off, and then things kind of also get out of focus. The colors aren't as rich. So as things go farther away, they get smaller, so diminishing size. The second thing that we will encounter, that we see out there, is this idea of parallel lines added. If we're standing like on train tracks or something of that, and we look into the distance, those parallel lines will look like they're converging or coming together at a point where they like vanish and it looks like they're touching. That's actually called the vanishing point. So this idea that, you know, long highways or train tracks or long hallways, you'll see this particular kind of illusion that occurs. And then the last distortion that we'll encounter is this idea of what's called foreshortening. So if I have my arm up like this and my fingers standing up tall, but then if I bring this towards you to the camera, my arm and hand and fingers are now foreshortened. So you notice my fingers don't look as long as well as my arm. When I bring it back up, everything becomes elongated again. So by this, where sort of an object is coming towards you or going away from you, it will have this what's called foreshortened as an illusion visually. Okay, so we've talked about those 3 distortions. So to start this off, instead of like drawing objects or architecture, we're going to start off real easy. So you're going to basically take a piece of paper, 8.5 by 11, typical size that you would have like in a printer or a photocopy machine, or that you would write on, and you're going to cut it down so that you have a square. So this square will be 8.5 by 8.5 inches. That's what you're going to start off with. And so how the drawing will go is you're going to make 4 drawings. The first 2 drawings will be blind contour line drawings. Those blind contour line drawings will be this continuation of honing your observation skills, and then I'm hoping that by now, you know, we're 5 weeks into this, that the blind contour line drawing approach kind of helps you warm up. It gets you into the mode of drawing. You know, whether you have an optical experience or get into your moment of Zen, it doesn't matter. The point is that it's warming you up and kind of getting you, it's like, okay, we're going to do drawing. We're not going to be, you know, playing video games or playing soccer. So you're going to do your paper prep. So get that sheet of paper and cut it so that it's 8.5 by 8.5 inches. You can use a ruler, a pencil, and some scissors. The directions for that are in the lectures as well as in the Canvas handout. Okay, so that's step 1. Your blind contour line drawings are out of the way. Step 2. So then the next point or part is that we're going to draw what we know versus what we don't know. Okay, so this idea of drawing what you see and drawing what you think you see. So the first thing is to take the square and basically, let me get behind the camera here and move you up to my drawing pad and we can see this happen. So you want to draw this square as you know it. And so what we know about the square is it's equal on both sides. So no matter what, it has a 1-to-1 ratio. Okay, hopefully you can see that. And then what we're going to do is hold the pencil like you're sketching, and then best to your ability and try and make it, almost life size. You're going to sketch a square as you know it, 4 equal sides. So I go real light, attempting to get the 4 equal sides. And you might be thinking this is really hard to screw up, and I'm always amazed. Some students screw this up, and it may not be their fault. It may not, they're just not paying attention. But I've seen a lot of rectangles. Okay, once I'm confident in my lines and my proportions, I darken my sketch lines. Okay, and so there's my outcome. It's a square as I know it. It's 4 equal sides. I freehanded it. I did not use any tools. And I just come in with my eraser and I kind of clean up any of those errant lines. Okay, so that's the first part of drawing this square. Okay, so I hope that's straightforward. I hope you're just like, well, that's it. That's it. Okay, all right, we're going to go on to the next drawing. So you want to get a new sheet of paper, and because this is pretty light, I'll just flip it over to the back side, and then I can save on paper. Now the situation you're going to need is you're going to need a table that's rather far away from you, and you're going to want to have it coming towards you. And then you're going to take your square and you're going to place it out there. Now I have this black cutting pad here so we can actually see the square. So that's just there for a visual. And then in the textbook as well as the handout, it talks about that you want to be 8 feet away. So here I have a tape measure. I'm bringing it out, and right now I have 8 feet and 3 inches. Okay, so that's a perfect length. All right, the next step is this. I'm going to bring the camera up and I'm going to turn it around to where I'm making my drawing. And I want you to pay attention to what's going on here on the floor. This is my station point, okay? At my station point, this helps me so I don't move, okay? And so my point of view, I'm going to be making my drawing from a standing position, okay? So it's important that you mark off the floor somehow. You can see that I also have dots, and that's for if I want to sit at a chair, so if I want to sit lower, okay? And then you also notice that my easel has been taped off as well. So if anything by accident gets moved, I know exactly where to place it back. So the reason why I'm showing you this is because I know some of you may live in a household or there's a lot going on and you may need that chair again to maybe use it, while eating dinner. This may get moved to maybe make room for, company might be coming over. So the possibilities are there that by just putting tape down, you'll always be able to find that same spot and then you'll get the distance. Now the next thing I want to show is that you want to set yourself up so that you have arm's distance from your drawing paper. This is very important, okay? Because you're going to be making measurements and sighting angles with your pencil. I'll just use my pen right now. And by doing them at arm's length and bringing it to arm's length to your drawing, your measurements and your sighted angles will stay consistent. But if you're always kind of like moving around and you're taking a measurement and you're sighting an angle and you break your arm, the angle's lost, and then your outcome here will be really wonky, okay? And we don't want that to happen. So one of the things we can do is to ensure that by establishing the station point so I know exactly where to step or stand or sit, and then where my easel's at, and then make sure that I have that arm's distance. All right, so bringing it back to the pad, I'm going to try and work this out so that I put you behind the pencil so you can see what the heck I'm doing. So I have my paper, blank sheet, I'm ready to go here. And again, you need an inclined surface to make this arm outstretched to make the drawing, okay? We will only be doing sketching. So you can see that this isn't going to be possible when you're sitting at a table and writing, okay? It's not going to work. So you need to incline your paper. If you go into the course resources module, it talks about different things that you can do if you know, alternatives to an easel. All right, so I have my paper out there. You know, it's 8 feet. And the first thing I want to do is I want to measure. And I want to establish is what's called my ratio. So what I do is at arm's length, I bring my pencil up, and let me bring I'm going to have 2 pencils. And you notice one is a little bit shorter and has tape on it. This will be my measuring pencil. This will be my drawing pencil, okay? All right, so I bring my pencil up. It's extended out at arm's length, and I have the camera behind my pencil. I put the pencil tip at the top back edge of the paper, and then I move my thumb up until it's at the bottom edge. So this is the measurement I get from this distance from this point of view, okay? I then take this measurement, I keep it, and this represents 1. I then turn it on this axis, and I put my thumb at the corner of the paper, and then I walk this measurement across, and I basically get 2. So I do this one more time just to check it. I get, let's see, trying to get that right, and then I walk it across. So I get 1, 2. So my ratio that I've established here is 1 to 2. So coming back to my drawing, and then just for the sake of memory, I put it up in the corner. I put 1 to 2. That's my ratio. Now, since I know this ratio, I can make this drawing any size I want, okay? I don't want to use the measurements I just made and then apply them here verbatim. If I did, this is what, or how big that drawing would be. The drawing would be relatively, it would only be that big. Okay? That's too small. So, as an artist, and you guys learned this last week using your viewfinder, you can go larger, and you as the artist have full control of the size. So going back, I'm looking at my situation. The other thing I want to point out visually through observation is you notice our sheet of paper, it is a square, and that's what we know. But now that it's laying on a flat surface and it's 8 feet away from us, it doesn't present itself as a square anymore. It actually now presents itself as a trapezoid. So that is another thing that through your observation, based on what you're seeing versus what you know, okay? So here we're going to be we'll be drawing this distortion. So this square sheet of paper right now is now presenting itself in 1-point perspective. So there's a couple things I want to show. So if I bring 2 pencils up and I bring them together, and you see how I bring them together so both of them are laying on the side angles of the paper. If I bring those up to my eye level and they meet, and you can see that string in the background on the artwork right here. So this is the vanishing point for this 1-point perspective of this object, okay? And it talks about that in the textbook as well as your handout. All right, so the first step is I now have, what do I do with this ratio? And I'm glad you asked that. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you what to do with that. So here I can do any size I want, okay? So I'm just going to pick a size, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to determine that I want to do my drawing, I want to make my 1 equal to the length of that pencil that I just dropped. So let me pick up that pencil. So this is my measuring pencil. So I'm going to make this pencil my measuring. So I'm going to indicate my 1 first. So I make a mark. I make it kind of low and in the center of the paper. And then I take the butt of my pencil and I put it on that mark. And then I basically put a second mark, and this is the length of my pencil. This length is representing this tiny measurement that I took over there, okay? So now I'm scaling up. So now that I've established, and what this represents is the front edge to the back edge. So it means the height of this paper. Now, I have my 1, and now I want to do my 2. But look at the problem that I'm running into. When I start to apply my measurements using the size of my pencil, it runs off the page of the paper, okay? So I want to point this out before you start drawing. Make sure that the size that you upscale will actually fit on the paper, okay? Not a big deal. So what I can do is I can scale back down to make this fit, and that's an easy fix. So all I have to do is I erase the top mark, and now I'm going to make a choice that, well, I put this piece of tape here, and I'll use from the tip to the bottom here of the tape will now represent my 1, okay? So again, I'm just toying with scale based off my ratio, okay? So I bring my pencil up to my first mark, bottom of my tape, here's the tip of the pencil, and I make my new mark. Again, this represents top to bottom that paper. Boom to boom. All right, next step. I now take my pencil and I want to go horizontally to make the 2. So I put the tape at the mark, and then I flip it around and I do the same thing. Okay, so now I have, here's the front of the sheet of paper, okay? So 1, 2, 1, 2, okay? So I hope you're with me. Once I have these 4 dots, now I'm going to lay in the first part. So I go back to my still life, and I bring my pencil up, and I'm going to sight the angle. And what I'm doing is I'm sighting the angle of the front of this sheet of paper, and it's a flat horizontal straight line. Okay, so let's bring that over there. So I sight this and I hold it. I'm keeping my arm extended, and I'm going to put that in. I start off really lightly. Remember, I'm freehanding this. I'm not using any tools. And as I go back and forth, the line builds up. The light smoky sketch line builds up, and then the line appears. Okay? All right, next step. Now, I know where the back edge of the paper is with that dot, but I don't know how long it is. So before I find that, I need to find the 2 side angles of this. So I bring my camera back to the still life. I bring my pencil up vertically, and I bring it up to the paper, and then I tilt it or windshield wiper it to the left until the pencil is laying on the edge of the paper. Holding that at arm's length, I bring it to my paper, and I bring it down here to the corner, and then I make a mark up here. And then I stroke the line through, and that basically shows that edge or that side of the square. I return to the still life, bring my pencil back up at arm's length, windshield wiper it to the right until it's laying on the edge of the paper, arm's length, come back to my paper, come down to the corner, make my mark, and then scribe the line through those 2. Okay? So now I have these extended lines that go beyond the point, right? So now I need to return here. I'm going to check my angle. So I bring my pencil up vertically. I bring it down until I'm on the back edge of the paper. Now, hopefully you know that both this and the back are parallel, okay? But I just wanted to show that. So arms out straight, checking that angle, come back here, and it is the same as the one on the bottom. So best of my ability, making a straight line across that mimics this one. And to finish off the paper. So this is the resulting outcome. Let me bring it closer so you can see that. This is the outcome. Now I've got some lines that I don't need, so I can take my eraser and now clean up my drawing. And then remember, I want to come to the drawing with a clean eraser. So I'm just, I just rub mine on the carpet. You can rub it on your jeans or like a hand towel, but you want to come to it with a clean eraser. And the main reason is so you're not smudging. So I take out those extended lines because I don't need them. And then I just clean up my sketch lines and just make it a little bit more presentable. If I made any smudges, I also want to clean those up. Take my brush. And then if I feel like I want to really clean this up, I could come in, holding my hand like I'm writing, and then basically press a little harder. It'll make it a lot more bold. It'll stand out. Again, I'm not using any tools to do this. I'm doing this all freehand. So in this class, you're learning how to see or observe, you're learning to draw, and then part of that is learning how to draw straight lines. All right, so there's my outcome. This is the first part of learning perspective, just drawing a piece of paper that's indicating or showing the distortion of diminishing size as well as converging lines. And this particular orientation that the paper is placed in is in 1-point perspective. So this is the 1-point perspective version of the square. And this is what we started with. We started off with just a square. We knew this was 1 by 1. And now this is the 1 by 2 version. Okay, so this is session 7. That's pretty much it. A lot of students feel like, oh my God, that was too easy. I did something wrong. No, and you'll find that this is pretty easy. If you can't get past this particular drawing, it's very important that you grasp this concept of measuring and then sighting angles and doing all of that using your arm fully extended. So if I were to bring the camera out here and let me see. So let me show you so you can kind of see a side view of me doing this. And I can show you this is where you can proof your drawing. Am I really sure that this looks like what I had over there? So what you can do is, you're at your station point, you have that arm's length, and so what you do is you take your pencil and you put it on the angle on the right, holding it, and then sighting it on your still life, and you're like, yep, that's on. And I come over here and I put it on this angle, arm's length. Yep, that's on. And then I put it on this front or the back angle, and that's on. So I can proof my drawing and making sure that these angles are correct so that when I turn it in, it looks convincing. But I proved to myself that it looks convincing. Okay? So that's proofing your drawing. Okay, so again, get a handle on this particular concept. It's important that you get this. If you don't get this, and as we move on learning perspective, linear perspective, it'll be very difficult to be able to make convincing drawings if you can't get past this. Okay, so it's important that you get it. All right, so thanks for watching. I hope that you got something from this, that it was eye-opening. And then, as always be sure to read the material. If you've got questions, let me know. and I'll see you next time. Take care.